Get this thing rolling. All right, we are back on another Wisco Fanatics Wednesday. As mentioned in the post for scheduling the live event, we don't have a ton of basketball to talk today. Last week we had two we just had one Badger game last week, and 5 Bucks games. And now this week we have just one Badger game, 2 Bucks games, and then we're going to bring in Simon and Bryant from our regular Friday shows, and we are going to talk about our stat projections that we made ahead of the season, and then positions of need for the draft. And these positions of need are the positions that we are going to focus on when we start our draft prep. So definitely pay attention to that, as that's going to be our football focus basically from the middle of February until the end of April. So that'll definitely be a big part of that. We're going to have our next Friday Night Packers show on February 10th. That's the second Friday in February. So we're going to do each of us, the 4 of us, are each going to do 4 ways to fix the Packers. So that's what we're going to do on that February 10th show. So that'll be our next Packers show. And then after that, we're going to be pretty much ratcheting up with draft prep and almost back to weekly shows. So no power pair this week for the Badgers. There's only one game, so it feels kind of weird to do a power pair from one game. But let's talk about the Badgers and Northwestern, what you saw from that game. What's up, James? Badgers and Northwestern.
All right. I'm going to go through my 3 things my major takeaways. I'm going to let you go, and then we're going to come to a group decision on what went wrong, right? Okay, so the first thing that I saw was the offensive struggle to get on the road. I mean, that goes without saying. You look at the field goal percentages. We shot 38% overall, 32% from 3, and Northwestern shot 43% from the field and 38% from 3.
2 free throws too, because that's important. I think the Badgers were 56.3% at the free throw line.
Yep, that was my next thing. Missed 7 crucial free throws. I mean, that you can't do that. If you're going to be a team that slows the pace down and every bucket is crucial for both sides, you have to make your fucking free throws. I think that goes without saying. We talked about it with Badger football, right? And we made this correlation before where maybe people are calling for Greg Gard because they see what a Luke Fickell can do. But they also have to take into account McIntosh gave a promise to Fickell saying, we're going to put money into the football program. We want this to be our moneymaker. Did he go to Greg Gard and have that conversation with him too? I don't think so. Nobody really knows. But I think if they stuck a little bit more money into basketball, we might get some better recruits too, more money to fly across country and all that stuff. But, the 7 missed free throws, you can't do that. When I was talking about what the football is, we used to just ground and pound, play defense, less possessions. You brought it up early in the season when our first loss. And I was like, that's a great point, man. And that's kind of how the basketball has kind of survived for the last 20 plus years as well.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I wanted to bring up was our last made field goal was a Steven Crowell layup with 3 minutes and 14 seconds remaining. We went the final 3 minutes and 14 seconds without a field goal. We had a couple free throws after that. I think we went 2 of 4, maybe 2 or 3. I don't remember off the top of my head. But we only hit a couple free throws from the 3-minute mark left in the game. That is absolutely uncalled for. I'm going to leave the rest to you, and we will come to a synopsis together.
On the subject of Greg Gard, isn't it a little crazy how quickly expectations can change?
It is. It is.
I mean, I know you brought it up that 3 seasons in a row, the Badgers have been picked to finish in the bottom third of the Big Ten, and they won a share of it last year. Greg Gard has won Coach of the Year twice. And now we're in a situation where they were picked to finish in the bottom third. I think they were picked to finish 9th, I want to say.
9th or 10th.
And they get to a point where they get off to a good start. Like I said they would. They got off to even a little bit better start than I even thought they would.
Right.
And they got ranked, like I said I thought they would. And I told you they have a tough December and January. Here we are in January, and the Badgers are going through some tough stretches, and people are freaking the fuck out.
Shocker.
It's crazy how quickly expectations can change when the expectations were low. The team overperformed. Now the team is performing back to original expectations, and people are flipping out. Like we gotta find some kind of happy middle ground here.
Mm-hmm.
That we have to. Otherwise, everybody like in the fan base is just going to drive themselves fucking insane.
I know where that happy middle ground is. It's at Wisco Fanatics because the reasoning I'm going to say is because even though we lost, there's still positives to take away from the game. Now,
Sure.
Obviously, I just brought up problems, but these are all coachable problems that can be fixed, right? Making free throws, offensive struggles. You got to tell people like, hey, we got to be ready to go. And then, the last made field goal thing, that's on guard, in my opinion. That could be on guard, it could be on the player's execution, but he's got to be able to reel them in. Remember, these are kids; these are not professionals. So,
right.
And some of them are older because we're not a Duke and a Kentucky where we just get these 5-star kids that stay for a year, right? But we still have kids that need to be able to rally the group. And that's a Tyler Wall. That's a Chucky Hepburn. And Chucky Hepburn is getting a whole heaping pile of learning on the fly right now.
Yeah.
So, these experiences are good for us in the long run because they're learning experiences because we got smart kids here. They're not some dummies. So I expect them to right these wrongs. By no means do I expect this to stay the norm.
Right. So I'm going to welcome Bernard and Isaac.
What up, boys?
Welcome. And you keep saying the word problems. And what I would suggest is not only for us, but for our viewers, for Simon and Bryant to do the show with us, for those watching these teams, watching other teams, any Wisconsin sports teams, any sports teams in general, life in general. Just change the word problems and substitute in the word opportunities. And just think of how quick you can change the mindset on something.
Yeah.
If you change the word problem to opportunity, that's where you can focus on getting better instead of hanging your hat on what went wrong or, why you're not going to win your next game. And that's where you get into situations where people make these predictions of this team's never going to win anything. It's because that's the way you're thinking about it. All you're seeing is problems instead of opportunities to improve. And you can look at them the same way. Like missed free throws, you can look at it as a problem or you can look at it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get better. That's the way I'd throw that out. Now, when you're talking about positive takeaways, one of them has to be Jordan Davis.
Yeah, 100%.
This is Jordan Davis got taken out of the starting lineup and was put back into the starting lineup with Max Klesmit missing this game and just casually goes off for a career-high 15 points. Jordan Davis essentially scored 1/4 of the Badgers' points. Easily the most efficient player. In addition to his 15 points, he also had 6 rebounds. 3 of them were offensive rebounds. And then he had an assist, a steal, and a block, and no turnovers. Great game from Jordan Davis.
That's a great game, man.
Definitely his best game as a Badger, I would say.
I would 100% agree.
And if that's something that Jordan Davis can build confidence off of, then that's definitely a positive takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac said, Wisconsin basketball, I'm not worried about. They've been very competitive every game. And that's the thing. The Badgers are 19-6 now in games decided by 6 points or fewer in the last 2 seasons. And that's it's going to be that style of play, and it's what it is. And like Jake said, free throws is an opportunity to win games even. You don't even have to look at it as an opportunity to improve. That's an opportunity to win games. The Badgers lost this game by 3 points and missed 7 free throws. That's an opportunity to win a game, not just to improve.
Great.
I still got to say it. It's Tyler Wall has elite footwork. It's so impressive. That's I think that might be my favorite part about Tyler Wall's game is how efficient and how proficient he is with his footwork in the paint. It's elite.
He definitely has, I don't want to say a negative word, but he has a kind of an awkward approach, I'd say. But then all of a sudden, how people used to treat Jordy Nelson, oh shit, he's fast. He's fast, right? Tyler Wall, I feel when he's driving, it's kind of awkward. But then like all of a sudden he does like a move, and you're like, oh shit, that was actually that was a nice move, bro.
Like he's shifty, he's crafty.
Like you don't expect that from him, I guess I'll say. Which I don't know, sounds mean and degrading, I guess, but I don't mean it that way. But he gets the ball and he coming from the 3-point line, he does like a spin Euro step, like lefty finish, and I'm like, where the hell did that come from, dude?
I like how he pivots like 6 times and then still finds a way to get a wide open layup out of it.
Yeah, how your anxiety level has to be like 1,000 at that point. Like, I don't know how many more pivots I got, but one of these is gonna work.
As long as I'm keeping that same foot down.
Right.
Isaac said Connor Essegian has been playing well. He has been playing well overall. He did struggle in this game specifically, and I don't think that's something that's going to be a long-term problem for Connor Essegian. I think he'll bounce back.
I think
so. I'm not worried about him. It's just another game where the Badgers were, able to get some stops and couldn't get some scores. And, it's going to need some efficiency. They're going to need a little bit more from the bench, in my opinion. Only 7 bench points in this game. I think it's worth bringing up. But
yeah,
I don't know. Is there really anything else you want to bring up? I mean,
no, let's give a shout out to Mikey real quick, though, because when we did the Badger primer, he talked about depth being maybe a problem this season. So just want to give a shout out to Mikey for calling that out because, right now it's kind of showing its head. But, like we've said before, this is just it's time for guys to step up, take bigger roles. And, they're going to have to learn on the fly. Like there's no way around it this season. So Essegian, he's learning right now. Yeah. He'll get there. I have absolutely zero worries about Connor.
Yeah, he's a freshman. He's playing in his 15th game, so
he'll be fine.
16. So the Badgers play Maryland tonight in Maryland. They traveled from Illinois to Maryland on Monday night, and then Saturday they have a rematch at home with Illinois. What do you got for a record for the week?
What was that?
What do you got for a record for this week with Maryland tonight and Illinois on Saturday?
Oh, man, the way that they're playing, Maryland's still a decent team. I will say 1-1.
Which one you got them winning and which one you got them losing?
I got them losing to Maryland, sadly. But I think they would have beat Illinois. I mean, it doesn't matter what I fucking think, but I think they would have beat Illinois if Tyler Wall played in that first one anyways. But
yeah. I'm gonna say 1-1 as well. I'm gonna say they bounce back tonight and they beat Maryland. I think Maryland's a little bit similarly overachieving. I think they're not as good as their record would suggest that they are, which I'm sure is the way that some people feel about the Badgers. I actually think it's going to be a pretty even match, but I do think the Badgers will bounce back and win tonight. And while Saturday is certainly a winnable game, and we'll see if the dude that shoots like 30% from 3 goes off for
right,
6 or 7 again. But barring that and Tyler Wall playing, it'd be nice to get Max Klesmit back either tonight or Saturday. But I'm going to say 1-1 with Maryland and Illinois.
Yeah. I'm with that.
All right. You got anything else you want to say about the Badgers before we move into Bucks?
No, it'd be nice if they won 2 games.
Yeah, and it's certainly capable. There's certainly 100%. Just because Jake and I are each predicting 1-1 doesn't mean we don't think the Badgers can go 2-0 because they certainly can.
I agree.
It just comes down to improving the things they need to improve on and just getting it done. So let's switch to Bucks. Give me your power pair and underrated performer. I know we have some overlap here because there's only 2 games, so a little bit fewer options to choose from. But give me your power pair and your underrated performer.
So for power pair, first guy I picked was Bobby Portis. Sad news on Bobby Portis today, but hopefully he can, heal up and get better. Tyler will have the full injury report for you. Bobby averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot 61% from the field, 64% from the 3-point line. He ended the week at a +1. I also have Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez did his thing, man. He had 4 blocks in that game against the Cavs, which we're going to talk about. He had averaged 15.5 points, 4.5 rebounds. He averaged 3 blocks because he had 6 on the week. He shot 50% from the field. Did not shoot the 3-ball well. Was 2 of 12 this week, but without Giannis and Middleton came back. So I expect those numbers to even out, and he'll shoot his high 30s. But he ended the week at a plus 19. So still very efficient even without Giannis and Middleton in the first game. And then you get to Pat Connaughton. Wait till you hear his plus minus, buddy. He averaged 10.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He shot 50% from the field, 5 of 11 behind the arc, 45%. And he ended the week at a plus 40.
Damn.
He was fucking plus 39 against the Pistons, and he scored 6 points.
Damn.
Yeah, bro.
Wow. Plus 39. Holy shit.
He shot the ball 3 times, and he was plus 39.
Damn.
That means that the lineup that he was with was playing some fucking defense.
Well, and offense too, because he started alongside Giannis.
True.
I want to look it up.
Plus 40. I was like, what?
That's nuts. Plus 39 in one game.
Yeah,
I just want to look and see if that was the team high from Monday night's game.
I think it was.
I can't imagine anybody being higher than plus 39. That's bonkers.
Here we go. We got the box score.
Yep, he's the highest by a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Grayson Allen and Giannis were both plus 26. Drew Holiday was plus 24. Brooke was plus 15, and Bobby was plus 16.
Plus 39, dude.
Wow.
He shot the ball 3 times. That is ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him. All right. Well, I also had Bobby Portis in my power pair. I also had Pat Connaughton as my underrated performer. But my other power pair player is Drew Holiday, who was named Eastern Conference Player of the Week, actually, for the last week, going from last Tuesday to this Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
In the 2 games, Drew averaged 22 points, 8.5 assists, 4 rebounds, was 49% from the field. And I'm going to bring this up again because it's basically just become one of my calling cards. Drew Holiday did not turn the ball over once against Detroit.
Wow. We had 19
0 turnovers against Detroit.
Never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself. Wow. 0 from Drew. Wow.
I know. That's crucial.
Very nice.
So Jake kind of mentioned it already. Bobby Portis was diagnosed with an MCL sprain towards the end of that Detroit game. I think it was in either the late 3rd quarter or the early 4th quarter. Bobby Portis was standing on his toes, and he got his heel stepped on, and it twisted his leg. So he has an MCL sprain. He's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So I just want to know, I'm kind of curious, what do you think is going to be the biggest change to the Bucks team in those 2 weeks plus that Bobby Portis is absent?
I'll put on the spot question live on Wisco Fanatics. We're going to see how I react. So, one, I'm not super worried with Giannis being back and Middleton being back. That's 2 big forwards that could fill that void immediately.
One specific player that I'm thinking of.
There's 2 guys I could think of. First of all, I could see us moving everybody down, like putting Giannis at the center and playing small ball, and giving Marjan some more minutes on the floor. Okay. Or I could see us, giving Mamu some more minutes on the floor.
Okay.
He's been hooping for the herd, man. I don't know. I just checked the box scores randomly the other day, and I was like, oh shit, man, he's balling. He had like 30 points and 12 assists or whatever the other day, and I was like, God damn, it's a pretty good from the big fella. Yeah, either Mamu or Marjan getting a few more minutes. Definitely less minutes for Nawara.
We'll get into that. Just hold the Marjan Nawara thing for just a minute.
My friend, that's a good frozen piece. What was that?
I said just hold on to the Nawara Marjan conversation for just a minute.
Okay.
No, the guy that I'm really thinking of that's going to be the most affected by this, I think, is Joe Ingles, actually.
Oh, okay.
I think it's possible that if Middleton's not going to be back in the starting lineup, which we won't know, what time do the Bucks play? They play at 6:30 or 7?
I don't know off the top of my head.
They're at home,
7.
so it's probably 7.
7.
Okay, so we won't know probably until about 5:30 if Middleton's going to be in the starting lineup or not. But if he's not and they're looking for somebody to start in place of him, it'll probably be Connaughton for now, and they'll probably just move Giannis to that power forward position. But I do think when it comes to minutes, I think it's going to be, Tim said it's 7. I do think it's going to be Joe Ingles picking up a big chunk of those minutes.
I'm okay with that, bro. He's been shooting.
Dude, he's been dishing too.
Fucking hey, dude.
We're seeing the Swiss Army knife Joe Ingles.
Bro, he had a behind the back step back. I said, oh shit, I didn't even know that was in your bag, dog.
All right, so let's get into. All right, we need to do this.
All right, now I'm sitting back. This is you, bro.
I just wanted to take a few deep breaths so that I don't scream at people. Can we, as Bucks fans collectively, can we just up our knowledge as a fan base, please? I'm sick of being on Twitter and seeing all these dumbass claims that people make based on emotion and not evidence and making Bucks fans look stupid. It bothers me that people aren't just using their heads when it comes to talking about things. And the main thing that I'm seeing right now is people complaining about Marjon Beauchamp not playing enough, and 3 reasons being brought up with it. 1, first one is Jordan Nwora playing more minutes than Marjon. And I get being frustrated by that. But listen, we are 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from tomorrow is the trade deadline. We are 2 weeks away from the trade deadline. I would be willing to bet up to probably $1,000 that Jordan Nwora will not be on this team come the trade deadline. So that's that. We're talking about Jordan Nwora either trying to squeeze out the last bit of potential that there's potentially left in him, or raising his trade value. I'm predicting that it's the latter and that Jordan Nwora is going to be on the move. Secondly, that Budenholzer doesn't know how to develop young players. How many opportunities has he had? You know, Marjon Beauchamp's only the second first-round pick that the Bucks have had since Budenholzer's been the coach. And in 2020, they didn't even have any draft picks. They didn't even have their second-round pick because it got forfeited for tampering with Bojan Bogdanovic.
I remember that, actually. And then that bastard didn't even come here.
Exactly. Well, we ended up getting Drew Holiday on the same night. So
yeah, true.
But, last year, we had... Why am I drawing a blank on last year?
We had Mamu and the Greece guy. I forgot his name.
Kalatsakis.
That guy.
So we're looking at basically the only guys that are really left on the team from draft picks is Mamu, Jordan Nwora, AJ Green, and Marjon Beauchamp. We have Hugo Bassan, but he's stashed abroad playing overseas.
Yep.
How many chances has Budenholzer had to develop players? I'm not even defending Budenholzer. I'm just strictly talking from evidence here. I don't even give a shit what you think about Budenholzer in this situation. But we're looking strictly at evidence. I'm not here to defend Budenholzer. I'm just seriously, I want to know what the evidence is that Budenholzer doesn't know how to develop rookies, because he's had nothing but second rounders since he's been here. You realize that doesn't make sense. Same with the claim that Budenholzer doesn't play rookies or he has something against rookies. What rookies do you think have been deserving of a whole bunch of playing time? I just mentioned there's basically 5 guys.
I mean, the only one you could think of is Marjon, really.
Exactly.
Because Mamu's still raw.
Exactly. He's got work to do defensively.
Yes.
So basically really no chances for Budenholzer to have even developed a first-round pick for people to be making the claim that he doesn't know how or that he doesn't play rookies. Now, if you want an example of can Budenholzer develop rookies, go back to look at his days in Atlanta. Look at 2 of the first-round picks that he had while he was there. Dennis Schroeder and John Collins. John Collins is a pretty good basketball player. Very athletic. He's got his shortcomings, but he's a pretty solid basketball player, and he's still around the league making $25 million a year. Look at Dennis Schroeder. That dude had basically his 2 best seasons playing under Budenholzer.
That's true.
The other first-round draft pick that he had was DeAndre Bembry, who was like the 21st pick, I think, in 2016. And he was a pretty solid 3-and-D guy for a while.
He was all right. Yeah.
So, I mean, the claim that Budenholzer doesn't know how to develop people, that's literally just a claim that people are making based on emotion of not liking Budenholzer.
I'd agree with that. It's an emotional reaction.
Now, this is the one that makes me the most mad. People claiming that if Giannis was a rookie this season, that Budenholzer wouldn't play him. Giannis was a rookie in 2013. MarJon is a rookie in 2023. Look at the fucking states of the franchise in that decade. MarJon is playing on a team that has an MVP, 2 all-defensive players, another all-star, all in the starting lineup. Bucks didn't have any of that shit 10 years ago.
And 3 all-stars.
The Bucks 10 years ago were trying to win 20 games in a season and didn't get there.
Bro,
The Bucks won 15 fucking games in a season.
I remember
No
that.
shit, they're playing the rookie the entire game. What do they have to lose? Nothing, because they lost 67 fucking games that season.
It's true. That happened.
God damn, it's so dumb that people are like, oh, if Giannis was a rookie, Budenholzer wouldn't play him this year. He probably wouldn't if we had fucking 2013 KD on our roster.
True.
And 2013 Drew Holiday, who was an all-star that year.
True.
And take your pick of good 2 guards. Like if we had, say, Drew Holiday, Joe Johnson, and Kevin Durant on our team, would we really be complaining that our number 15 pick wasn't playing that much? Or would we be focused on winning championships?
I guess that's a question you have to ask yourself.
I mean, just look at the state of the franchise from the season that Giannis was a rookie and the season that MarJon is a rookie. Like, it's, oh my fucking God, it's not hard.
Yeah, it's...
So, the claims about MarJon Beauchamp, just be a little bit fucking patient. I know it's hard because I've seen people be impatient, and I know that we live in the instant gratification world and all that, but it is what it is. So let's rip through these. Let's get through this Cavaliers game, and then we got the Pistons game. So what did you see from the Cavaliers game that stood out to you?
Well, congratulations to Isaac's boy Mobley for finally showing up for the first time in his career. He decided to actually score the ball like he was supposed to. He had a good game. Not trying to throw shade, just a little salty. If Giannis was in there, though, I'm telling you right now, think he was getting all those layups, boy. It would be, and he'd be having to guard somebody all night.
Drew Holiday actually guarded him for 2 minutes and 42 seconds.
No, he only guards point guards. Didn't you see?
Oh, yeah.
He only
Especially
guards
when they
point
go
guards.
off. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, he only guards the shooting guards when they're scoring. He doesn't guard them at any other time.
Yeah.
Only when they're scoring. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But anyways, the problem with this game to me, the biggest problem was the ball movement. Like I told you earlier, it felt like some people had sticky fingers. I mean, if you just look at the bench, I counted last night when I was looking stuff up again. I believe the bench only had 14 total shots, and they made 6 of them. So when the bench is coming in, they're not being effective. So I mean, it's
a little under 50. That's okay.
That's okay, but the shot attempts is what really gets me, because Drew Holiday shot 27 times, I believe. So I mean, I expect was player of the week, so it is what it is. But I wanted more ball movement, and when we get into the Pistons game, I see the difference it makes in body language and people wanting to guard and people running harder on offense when everybody's touching the basketball, right? And me going from the Cavaliers game to the Pistons game, now I understand that there's levels, right? And the Pistons and the Cavaliers are no fucking where in the same realm, right? The Pistons are the worst team in the East right now, one of the worst teams in the NBA. They're injured. One of their best players is injured. They got some nice young pieces, though. I will say that.
Yeah,
that Durant kid, he might turn into something. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we missed Giannis's pace on offense. We missed his presence on defense because it felt like they had a fucking layup line all goddamn night. That was so goddamn annoying.
66 to 44 points in the paint.
Yeah, and then you look at their assist numbers, 33 to 24. We had 16 turnovers. They had 9. So they were really making 1 or 2 passes, getting to the fucking rim, and it was just so goddamn annoying. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is.
So for this game, things that stood out to me, one, Bobby Portis started off 5 for 5.
True.
And before he got his first miss, Cavs made a 13-2 run that ended with a Seti Osman missed 3, followed his shot and got his own rebound and made a layup out of it. That's just the kind of stuff. Those are the kind of lapses that just can't happen. Bucks cut the lead to 3 at halftime. They kind of kept pace with the second half, but they just really couldn't get ahead. And it wasn't really anything massively particular, except points in the paint. That was really the biggest difference. Fundamental failures. 1 missed free throw, 21 points off turnovers, which is high, but only 11 second chance points, which is a little bit below where I'd like them to be. So that's good. 33 fundamental failure points. That's right on their average. So, it's just little things. I mean, Bobby Portis had another double-double with 23 and 11. Drew Holiday had another double-double with 28 and 10. With Drew Holiday, it's just the 6 turnovers in this game. That's what it comes down to for me is paying attention. Like, Drew is our primary point guard. Mm-hmm. He's got to take better care of the ball. He's got to be an example for taking care of the ball.
I agree.
So that's where I'm looking at with Drew Holiday. But that's pretty much it. I mean, let's just go to the Pistons game. Talk about the parallels from the 2 games that you noticed from the things that stood out to you.
So the last thing I said was the Bucks missed Giannis's pace on offense. Clearly, if you watch this game, the guy was setting the pace on offense. 20 points, 6 of 6 in the first quarter. Holy camole. I was like,
there it is. Yes. I miss you saying holy camole. It's been a while.
And bringing it back, baby. I was like, okay, real talk. I'm working on not swearing again, but this time it's going to stick. I was watching the game and Giannis makes a layup. Giannis gets to the free throw line. Giannis again. Giannis. I'm like, welcome back, guy.
Then he's catch and shoot threes, and he walks into a dribble pull up and does a heat check, and he cashes that too. And it's just like, okay, well,
he was everything in the first quarter. He was what we missed in the Cavs game. Exactly what I said. And the ball movement. This game, I'm going to tell you, I know that we had 19 turnovers. We still ended up 2-1 with the assist to turnover ratio. This was the best ball movement I think I've seen the Bucks this season.
For a complete game, I would agree.
Yeah, not just like for like the totality of the assist number. I'm going to ignore that. But just seeing guys pass the ball, move the ball around, I saw it in a couple groups, and I wanted to bring this up. I wrote this down. I put a star next to it. I saw people still talking about trading Grayson Allen. And I'm going to tell you something.
I don't want to.
Grayson was fucking fantastic against the Detroit Pistons.
Tell me
defended.
Where. Yeah.
He passed the ball well.
Yeah.
He dribbled. He was dribbling and driving to the rim.
Yes, that's it.
He was everywhere, dude. And he doesn't even have to have big scoring numbers. And that's what really, for the last couple seasons, that's the thing that really bothers me is when I'm having discussions with people. And you can tell the people that just look at the box scores, right? And they're going to see Grayson. What did he have? He had single digits, right? He had 9.
Yeah, 9 points, 5
9
assists, 3 rebounds, 3 steals, 1 block, 1 turnover.
The guy was everywhere. And if you watch this game and you really watch this game as like a basketball fan, you're like, damn, man, Grayson Allen's having a good fucking game. I just wanted to give credit to Grayson for that. Shout out to Giannis for doing what he does. So nice to see Chris Middleton hitting a fucking 3-pointer, dude. I was like, good God. Yeah, there goes the swearing right away. Good God. I was waiting for that. That felt so good to see. 23 made threes, 52 attempts. We shot 20 more 3-pointers than the Pistons. That is insane, dude. Anyways, I'm going to let you take the floor now.
So the Bucks scored 49 points in the first quarter. That's their highest scoring quarter of the season. They scored 83 points in the first half. That's their highest scoring half this season. we didn't even mention, this went really under the radar, but Javon Carter scored 18 points in this game. He made 6 threes, Javon Carter did. Javon Carter made 6 threes on 8 attempts.
He had really good rhythm.
So you mentioned the Bucks made 23 3-pointers. How many players do you think made at least 1 3?
What did you say?
How many players do you think made a 3-pointer out of the 23? And you know Javon Carter made 6.
I'm gonna say 8.
Nailed it. Attaboy. 8 different players made a 3 for the Bucks in this game. So the Bucks came out of the third quarter a little sloppy on shot selection, to be honest with you. I think that's something when they're playing with big leads, their shot selection tends to get a little iffy. So I think that's something that's an opportunity for them to work on going forward. It was good to see Chris Middleton playing. He didn't look timid or shy coming back from his injury. He looked like himself. He was hunting shots, looking to get ball to his teammates. And he did have 6 turnovers. One of them was the first time he touched the ball. He turned and went to start his dribble and immediately got acquainted with the NBA's new emphasis on calling travels. It's been an emphasis since like November for the NBA's calling travels, and Chris Middleton got to find that out right away. Courtney says, "Hey guys."
Hi.
So Middleton got acquainted with that right away, and then one of the other turnovers that he had was he went and got an offensive rebound, and then as he was going to collect it, like right by the sideline, he stepped on the out of bounds line.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was just out there throwing bad passes and stuff like that, getting turnovers and stuff.
Right.
He finished with 8 points. He made 2 threes, like Jake said, and he had 4 assists. The 2 rebounds, like I said, both were offensive rebounds. One of them, this has annoyed me, and I know I texted you about it.
Yeah.
Was Middleton's driving in transition, passes the ball to Jordan Nwora, wide open for 3. Nwora misses it. Middleton gets the offensive rebound, kicks it back to Nwora, who misses another 3. It's like, damn.
You can't miss the 2 for a dollar shot, man.
They're both wide open, too.
That's like against all basketball laws. Like, you can't do that.
I know. It's like we're trying to get your trade value up, and you're not helping.
Yeah, right. We're just going to have to get rid of you.
The Bucks had 115 points and 30 assists at the end of the third quarter already.
Yeah, we were smacking the hell out of them, dude.
I do also want to give Wesley Matthews credit. He hit the 11,000 point mark in this game as well. And when I brought up Javon Carter, I wanted to say something, and that I think is with the Bucks being healthy and now down Bobby Portis, I think we're going to get to a point where we start to see guys playing their more defined roles. So like Javon Carter being the backup point guard, Joe Ingles being the Swiss Army knife, Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis being the 6th men off the bench. And now we're going to have to be a little more crafty with the lineups, which is a challenge for Budenholzer to figure that out while Bobby Portis is out for the next couple of weeks. But, that's something we'll have to figure out. This was also the 5th game that the Bucks had double-digit steals this season. So that was good to see as well.
Good stat.
Oh, yeah. The stat that Isaac gave us, I don't know if Isaac's still watching, but Isaac gave us a stat the other day. This is the most points that Detroit has allowed since 1988.
Yep.
That's a lot of points to give up, 150.
I think in 1988 they gave up 152. I think I remember hearing as well. So we were this close. This close.
Nice. So I want to bring up just the numbers real quick. Javon Carter had the 18 points. He also had 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and 3 steals. Drew Holiday had 16 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 0 turnovers. That's my guy, Drew.
Yes, sir.
Grayson Allen, we kind of mentioned already. He was all over the stat sheet. Bobby Portis, another double-double, 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists. I mean, really just the Bucks firing on all cylinders when they're healthy. This is the title contending Bucks team that we've been wanting to see, and we haven't seen it all season. This was actually the first game that Joe Ingles and Chris Middleton have played in together.
Hey, that was a good one. I am very mad I didn't bring that up. That was a good one.
So the Bucks play tonight against Denver, Friday in Indianapolis against the Pacers. They play Sunday at home against New Orleans, and then Tuesday at home against Charlotte. I think I'm going to go a 4-0 week on the Bucks.
4-0?
I think I'm going to go 4-0. I don't think they're going to lose at home to Denver. Like, Jokic is an absolute baller, but we have healthy Brook Lopez.
Okay.
So I like healthy Brook Lopez. Giannis is back with a vengeance and an opportunity to show, an MVP case against another MVP contender.
Mm-hmm. Indianapolis,
I'm not worried about the Pacers. Even on the road. The Pelicans are a solid team. That's if I had to say 3-1, like the Pelicans are one that I could see.
Yeah, they kind of
Brandon Ingram is going to be back for the Pelicans soon.
True.
And then they play Tuesday against Charlotte. I would like to see the Bucks reverse their blowout that they had against Charlotte the last time they played, and I'd like to see the Bucks beat the Hornets by like 30 and really just wash that last loss out. But I'm gonna say a 4-0 week for the Bucks. I think they're due to go on a winning streak.
God, you know how badly I want to say 4-0, dude, but I can't overlook Denver. They're number 1 in the West right now. Jokic is back-to-back MVP, looking to be 3 straight right now. Honestly, if the season ended like today, he'd win the MVP right now. God, God damn it. I'm gonna say 3-1. I have to. That's what my gut's telling me. I'm gonna say 3-1.
All right. Well, when the Bucks beat the Nuggets tonight, I'll at you.
You better. Everybody at me.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say about the Bucks?
Shout out Marjan for the sick dunk, man. That was lit.
He actually hurt his wrist on that. He was questionable tonight with a wrist contusion because of that.
Imagine dunking on somebody so bad you're questionable the next game. Oof.
Imagine dunking so hard that you bruise your wrist.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I do that.
Cody says Bucks in 6. Just one last bit of basketball news real quick before we bring in Simon and Bryant. Max Klesmit has been ruled out for tonight for the Badgers, so no Max Klesmit for the Badgers, so that is a bummer. So gonna need guys like Connor Sejan, Isaac Lindsey, some more Chucky Hepburn step up. So that's where we're at. All right, you ready to review? You ready to review some Packers?
Yeah, man. Tell me how good I did.
I'm pulling up the stats right now. I'm gonna bring in Simon and Bryant against my better judgment.
Yeah, he was, Bill. Oh God, not these guys.
I know.
This feels weird. We get you guys on a Wednesday afternoon instead of a Friday night. What's up, guys? All right. You guys ready to do this? Ready to see who was right, who was wrong, who was really wrong?
Yes.
I'm always wrong. Just ask my girlfriend.
Yeah, well, yeah. Could have told you that.
She'll tell.
All right.
She will.
We can't hear you, Simon.
It's probably
my bad. I muted myself. I asked if we shared the same girlfriend.
No, never mind. Don't start that. You're gonna get me in trouble, bro. She watches Wednesday. She watches on Wednesdays. Nah, I'm gonna get yelled at Friday.
That's awkward.
Here we go.
It's only weird if you make it weird.
It's weird.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I'm gonna jump. Just gonna start with this. So I'm gonna give our consensus numbers and compare them to where the numbers ended at the regular season. So for stat projections, and if this is something that people enjoyed that we did, we can do more of them next year. We could try to do the whole roster and maybe kind of do that as a little bit more segmented stuff. But coming into this season, we did Aaron Rodgers passes, completions and attempts, percentage, yards, touchdowns, and interceptions. For Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, we did carries, yards, touchdowns, and then receptions, targets, yards, and touchdowns for receiving. And then we did Allen Lazard, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs, their receptions, targets, yards, and touchdowns. And for defense, we did Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, and Rasul Douglas. I'm going to skip Eric Stokes because he tore his ACL in the middle of the season. We did Devondre Campbell, Rashawn Gary, and Kenny Clark. Two out of the three of those guys also got injured, but I'm just going to run through the guys who we have more of a full season on and compare them to what the real ones were, and then we'll go and we'll see who was closest.
Dude, I was pretty close in some of these. Some of my projections looking back at them, I just looked at Kenny Clark's too. I was 2 tackles off and a sack off.
Okay.
All right.
Shut up, Simon.
Yep.
I was going to say something.
I paused for a second too. And listen,
That's not my fault. That's what they call it, okay?
there's not one, but 2 69 references baked into our consensus rankings that there's no possible way that between the 4 of us making projections, we could have done that on purpose.
Yeah.
That's
Because the 4 of us combined projected Rodgers for a 69.4 completion percentage. On the season, he finished 64.6. Now, this, like, Aaron Rodgers did deal with thumb and rib injuries at points. And, we saw a little bit of Jordan Love in some of the games. But we had Aaron Rodgers projected for 354 completions on 510 attempts. We were only off by 4 on the completions. He completed 350 passes. We had 354 on 510 attempts. He threw 542. So we were pretty close on that.
Bruh, I was a master. I had 350.
Nice. Attaboy. All right. I'll give you.
Off on the touchdown.
Let's do the consensus ones. I'll let you brag in a minute when we do them individually. We had him projected for 4,153 yards. That was probably inflated by me. I think I had him predicted for a bigger yardage season this year, but he had 36.95. Again, I think that probably would have been a little higher, when we talk about things like drops, injuries, stuff like that. We had him for 36 touchdowns, which I know is something that I had him higher for. He finished with 26 touchdowns, and we had him for 5.5 interceptions, and he threw 12, which is rough, but some of it was just chucking out balls just to try to make something happen. But it is what it is.
Yeah. For
Aaron Jones, we had 178 carries projected. He finished with 213 for 1,121 yards. We had him at 868, and I know I was higher on this than you guys. You guys had a lot of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon closer to 50-50, and I did not. So that'll be one that I get on. We had him projected for 7.5 touchdowns. He only had 2, which is a bummer. We had him for 5.5 receiving touchdowns, which we were really close on. We had him for 68 receptions. He finished with 59. On 83 targets, he had 72. So we were pretty close on Aaron Jones. Had he not been banged up, we probably would have been pretty spot on with that as well. For 563 receiving yards, he had 395. So we were pretty close on some of Aaron Jones' receiving stats. As far as A.J. Dillon, we had him for 208 carries as a consensus. He had 186. We had him for 938 yards. That's a lot. He finished with 770. 5.5 touchdowns. He had 7. So a little under on the touchdowns. Receptions, we had him for 43 receptions on 52 targets. He had 28 on 43. So we're pretty low on that. I think I was closer on it, but neither here nor there. For 421 yards, he finished with 206. Another 3 touchdowns, which he did not have any receiving touchdowns, which is what it is with with A.J. Dillon. But Cody said, outside Dillon, we didn't really try to run Jones into the end zone that much this year, did we? Aaron Jones, he only had like 3 carries inside the 5 the entire season.
I brought that stat up at like near the end of the season. It was like a disgustingly low amount of attempts inside like the 5 and 10. It was like 12 red zone or like 12 carries inside the 5 or something like that.
Yeah, see, I hate that. Oof. Like
it
if we're
was
gonna do the
really
shotgun runs,
low.
if we're gonna do the shotgun runs, I think that's got to be the Aaron Jones. And then if you're gonna put Dillon in there, just freaking line up an eye and run the damn ball.
So for the 3 receivers that we did Allen Lazard, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. This is the other 69 reference that we had. We had Allen Lazard projected for 69 receptions on 105 targets. He had 60 on 100. We were pretty damn close on Allen Lazard, so good job to us for that. We had him projected for 872 yards. He finished with 788, so we're not too far off on that. And we had him for 8 touchdowns. He had 6. So I mean, we were pretty spot on with Alan Lazard's numbers, I would say, as a consensus. For Christian Watson, we had 32 on 51 targets. He finished with 41 on 66. So he was a little ahead of us there. We had him for 496 yards. He had 611. And we had him for 4 touchdowns, and he finished with 7 plus 2 rushing touchdowns. So Watson outperformed our projections for him as a rookie season. Mm-hmm. Going back to Romeo Doubs, who I'm still bummed that he got injured in the middle of the season. Shouts out to Kirby Joseph. I hope you are minorly inconvenienced every day until the season starts. We had him projected for 30 receptions on 51 targets. He had 42 receptions on 67 targets. We had him for 3 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns. We had him for 392 yards, and he had 425. So let's look at offense. Let's see who was the closest on a lot of these things. And we'll start with Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, hold on 1 second. You guys want to hear something really disgusting?
Go ahead.
Aaron Jones in the red zone this year, 31 rushing attempts for average 1.8 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns.
Oh my God. That's rough.
I was having a good day.
Oh,
that's what I'm here for, guys. I'm here for hard-hitting stats.
For building resilience.
Oof. That's rough.
All right. So for Aaron Rodgers for completions, he had 350. Bryant did have 350. Jake had 355, so Jake was only off by 5.
Fucking bitch.
I had 375. I apparently had Aaron Rodgers doing a much higher completion percentage. Simon had 335, so he was a little bit below. So attempts, I had 540, so I was only off by 2 on Rodgers' attempts, so I was good on that one. Jake had 490. Simon had 480. Bryant had 530. So Jake and Simon apparently didn't think that Rodgers was throwing a lot of passes this year, which, based on the roster construction, I understand. For touchdowns, we all had him in the 30s. I had him at 40, Jake at 37, Bryant at 34, Simon at 32. So Simon was the closest at 32 to Rodgers at 36. Jake only had Rodgers at 4 interceptions. The rest of us had 6. Obviously, he doubled that to 12, which is a bummer, but that's really more of an anomaly, outlier type season for interceptions for Rodgers. But going to Aaron Jones. Let's go to Aaron Jones's projections for attempts. You guys are dicks. I'm not going to lie.
I think Dylan should have ran more.
Bryant had him for 160 carries. Jake and Simon both had him for 175. I had him for 200. He had 213. For yards, damn, Bryant. Bryant had him at 800 carry. 800.
You got to look at my reception number projections because I really thought
I was high on his receptions too. I was hoping he was going to have like an Alvin Kamara type season. Bryant had him at 800 yards. Jake had him at 822. Simon at 890. I had him at 960. He outperformed all of us and had 1,121. So he was above all of us on that. Touchdowns, I really thought Aaron Jones was going to have a better touchdown season. Jake and Simon both had him at 7, Bryant at 6, me at 10, and he finished 2 rushing. He did have 7 receiving touchdowns, which I had him at 6, Jake had him at 6, Bryant had him at 6, Simon had him at 4. We were all expecting a lot of Aaron Jones in the receiving game, and that shows by our reception numbers. One of my bold predictions, and I think fully healthy would have been damn close, was I had Aaron Jones for 80 receptions this year. That was my bold prediction that Aaron Jones was going to have 80 receptions. Finished with 59 on 72 targets. Simon had him at 73, so good on Simon for nearly correctly predicting Aaron Jones's target numbers. And then receiving yards, I had him definitely way higher than everybody else, but his receiving yards were pretty low. His yards per reception were only 6.7. So yeah, that's that. Getting into the wide receivers, Alan Lazard we had targets. I had 115. Jake had 99. Bryant had 100. And Simon had 105. Alan Lazard did finish with 100. So good job on Bryant for getting that one right. For receptions, Simon predicted 69. Not surprisingly. I predicted 80 for Alan Lazard. Cody, Jake will be right back. He's just trying to refresh his internet. Jake had him for 60. He finished the season with, I had it up right here, receptions. He finished with 60. So Jake correctly predicted his number of receptions. So good for Jake. For yards, I had him at 920. Simon at 897. Bryant at 950. And Jake at 720. He finished with 788. So Jake was probably the closest on that, but we did pretty good on the rookies.
Yep.
I had Watson 41 receptions, and he finished
with 41.
He finished with 41, so sweet. Nailed that one on 70 targets. He had 66. Damn, I was really close on.
Yeah, you were really
Watson.
close.
Sweet.
See how long this lasts.
And I had him for 4 touchdowns. He finished with 7 plus the 2 rushing, and I had him for 560 yards, and he finished with 611. Simon had him at 602, so good on Simon. Simon was closest on Christian Watson's yards. Jake, explain yourself. You had Christian Watson 18 catches on 35 targets for 237 yards and 3 touchdowns.
You know, man, coming into the season, I thought we were going to be a ground and pound. Obviously, you saw I was pretty low on the pass attempts for Rodgers, which is why I was so low on the interceptions.
True.
I thought if he's going to throw the ball less, he's not going to turn the ball over much. He doesn't turn the ball over at all anyways. I thought we were really just going to be feeding the two horses.
That's fair. I understand. Bryant was closest on touchdowns. He had Watson projected for 5. He finished with 7. Romeo Dobbs. I had Romeo Dobbs projected 35 on 55. He finished with 42 on 67. Jake had him at 36 catches, so Jake was the closest on catches. Targets, 67. Jake had him at 69, so Jake was pretty close on Romeo Dobbs' targets.
Let's go.
If he was healthy all season, that number would be way higher. Probably be in the
100%.
80s for receptions had he not missed a few games. But let's get into yards and touchdowns. Bryant and I had him for 3. Jake had him for 5. Nope, sorry. Jake had him for 4 touchdowns. Simon had him for 2. He finished with 3. So Bryant and I were correct on that one. And then yards, I had him for 400. Jake for 413. Bryant for 330. Simon for 426. He finished with 425. So good job, Simon. Simon was only off by 1 yard.
Damn, son.
Jake and I were both within 25 yards of the final tally. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. So I'm gonna skip Eric Stokes and I'm gonna skip Rashawn Gary. It's so annoying because we would have been so close on it. Like I feel like we would have been really, really close on Rashawn Gary.
Yeah.
What was our consensus on Gary?
I just wanna real quick. I'm gonna pull up
we had like
the
15
guys that we
sacks,
predicted so I can.
I think it was
13
like
and a half or something like that.
Yeah, 13 and a half consensus or 14 or something.
Which was well on pace.
6 when he got hurt.
I'm
So.
looking at everybody's stats all at the same time. Okay. Rashawn Gary was in 9 games, had 6 sacks, so double that. He would have been around 12. We had him consensus at 14.
We would have been so close.
Yeah, it would have been pretty close.
So for Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, and Rasul Douglas, we did passes defense, interceptions, and tackles. And then for Devondre Campbell, we predicted passes defense, tackles, and sacks. And then for Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark, we did tackles for loss, total tackles, and sacks. So Jair Alexander, we had consensus 13 passes defense, 2 interceptions, and 56 tackles. He outperformed that. He had 5 interceptions, passes defense. Lost it here.
14.
He had 14. Yep. So we were pretty close on that one. And then tackles, he had over here. He had 56. We were at 56. So
Hey.
good job, everybody. Nailed that one. Rasul Douglas. We had 16 passes defensed, 4 interceptions, 60 tackles. He finished with 4 interceptions, so we got that one right. So good job, everybody, again. 13 passes defense. We had him at 16. We thought he was going to get thrown at a little bit more than Jair. Mm-hmm. So he was pretty close on passes defense. And then we had him for 60 tackles. He finished with 85 tackles.
Holy shit.
So Rasul Douglas was out here getting tackles.
He played slot more than I thought he would at the beginning of the season, and he was
supporting
the defense, run game for sure.
So Devondre Campbell, like I said, we did passes defense, tackles, and sacks. Devondre Campbell did miss some time with an injury. So we passes defense consensus. We had 6. He finished with 3. Tackles, we had him for 141. He finished with 96. Again, we would have expected these numbers to be higher. And then we had him for 2.5 sacks, and he did not register any. But, again, injuries affected that. Rashawn Gary, essentially, we can kind of double these numbers, I guess, and get kind of close to where we would have been. So in the 9 games that he played, he had 6 sacks. We had him projected for 14 consensus. Double that, he'd be around 12 for the season, so we're kind of close on that. We had him for 52.5 tackles. He had 32 in the 9 games, so double that, about 64. So we'd have been pretty close on tackles, and we had him for 10 tackles for loss, and he was at 7. We had 10.5, and he was already at 7 through 9 games. So he would have beaten our tackles for loss numbers by a lot, which I think says a lot for Rashawn Gary getting better at defending the run as well as being a pass rusher. So I think that's a pretty good thing to throw out there with Rashawn Gary. Then, lastly, Kenny Clark. We had tackles for loss, and sacks. We had him projected for 49.5 tackles. He finished with 53, so we were pretty close on that. We had him for 8.5 tackles for loss. He finished with 5. And then we had him for 6 sacks. He had 4. So we were pretty close on that. And let's look at the numbers a little bit closer. Jair Alexander passes defense. Jake and I had him at 12. Simon and Bryant both had him at 14. I think we ended up having a lot of these things were really, really close.
Yeah.
But on passes defense, Jair finished with 13, so right in the middle of all of us. So it was good for us to nail that one. Interceptions, we all had Jair Alexander down for 2 interceptions. We all, I think, consensus didn't think Jair Alexander was going to get thrown at very much, and I think that reflected in his tackle numbers as well. So passes defense, and then interceptions, he had 5, so he outperformed all of us by more than double. And then tackles, I had him at 60. Simon and Bryant had him at 55. Jake had him at 52. He had 56. So Simon and Bryant off by 1, me off by 4, and Jake off by 4. So we were all really, really close on tackles for Jair Alexander. So good job, everybody, on that. Eric Stokes, I wish we could do Eric Stokes. I wish he got to play the whole season. It's a bummer that we didn't get to see that. But let's go to passes defense for Rasul Douglas. He finished with 13. I had him at 18. Simon had him at 14, so Simon was only off by 1. Good job, Simon. And Bryant had him at 17. Jake had him at 13. Jake correctly predicted Rasul Douglas's passes defense, so good job, Jake.
Yes,
interceptions. Jake and Bryant both had him at 4. Simon had him at 3. I had him at 6.
Ooh.
And he finished with 4 interceptions. So good job, Jake and Bryant, for correctly predicting Rasul Douglas's interceptions. Jake apparently was just nailing the Rasul Douglas projection. So good job, Jake.
That's where I am, boy. Rasul's my boy.
Let's go to tackles. I get to flex on this one a little bit. Jake had him at 45. The 4 of us went 45, 55, 65, 75. Jake had him at 45, Simon at 55, Bryant at 65, me at 75. He finished with 85.
I don't like when my DBs have to tackle people, man. I just don't like it.
Either, but we've seen that a shit ton.
I know.
Like 2 years ago, the first year we did the show, that like every game, Adrian Amos and Jair Alexander were the leading tacklers.
I know, and our defense was dog shit.
Exactly. Devondre Campbell passes defense. Jake and I had him at 7. Simon and Bryant both had him at 5. He had 3 in 13 games, so he plays the other 4 games. Maybe he gets a couple more. I think the biggest one out of those, though, is definitely the one in the Tampa Bay game on the 2-point conversion.
True.
Yep.
For tackles, Jake had him at 150. Bryant and I had him at 140. Simon had him at 133. He finished with 96. Again, that's just another one of those things where if he plays the whole game or the whole season, he's probably a lot closer to our numbers. And then with sacks, Jake and Bryant both had him at 3. I had him at 2.5. Simon at 2. Didn't finish with any. You know, if he plays the other 4 games, maybe he gets 1, and we're still a little bit high on it. But I guess I don't think we really expected Quay Walker to be blitzing as much as he did. I think we kind of figured that with Quay Walker being more of a coverage linebacker, that Devondre Campbell might be the one turned loose on some pass rush a little bit more, but it almost seemed to be the opposite. I don't know if you guys have any
rookie team, Quay Walker. Right?
That's yes, all rookie team.
I feel like it was more towards the end of the season too. Like they started kind of utilizing his ability to rush the passer a little bit.
Sure. Rashawn Gary, that's really kind of a tough one. Jake was definitely hoping that Rashawn Gary was going to have a crazy sack season. Jake had him for 15.5. Brian for 13.5. Simon for 15. Me for 13. He was on pace for about 12, so I would have been the closest, but I would have been super happy to see Jake's total come to fruition.
He did have 6 in his first 6 games.
Right.
Yep.
So that's tough.
And then with Kenny Clark. So tackles for loss, Kenny Clark had 5. I had him down for 10. Jake for 9. Bryant for 8. Simon for 7. So Simon was the closest. Tackles, I had him pretty low on tackles. I had him down for 45 tackles. I really thought he was going to be kind of a space taker and getting some sacks. So Jake and Bryant both had him at 55. Simon had him at 43. I had him at 45. He finished with 53. So he was in between myself, Jake, and Bryant. Bryant and Jake were only off by 2. So good job to you guys. And then for sacks, I had him at 5.5. Jake had him at 7. Simon at 6. Bryant at 5. He finished with 4. So Bryant was the closest, only off by 1 on sacks on Kenny Clark. So good job for that. But like I said, overall, I think we did pretty good. I'm not going to lie. We were pretty close on a lot of these. So, I mean, like we might have to do the whole team next year, and we might have to post these because I think we were pretty close on a lot of these. I don't know is there anything out of any of this that surprised the 3 of you when it comes to our projections, whether they were close, how far off they were, if there's things that you guys would have changed, obviously having the benefit of hindsight, but you know, what kind of things are you thinking based on our predictions that we made?
I think we absolutely nailed the rookie wide receivers. I thought that was good. I was 26 yards off. Another one you drilled the number of receptions. You had 41. I had him at 39. I think Tyler had him at 41. It was nice to see him score. I thought 5 touchdowns was high because I figured he would hit some deep balls, which he did. But man, 7 touchdowns, that's a great season by him. So
absolutely.
There's a couple. It's hard looking at these because you're if some of these guys would have hit these projections like we expected them to play,
yeah,
we're for sure in the playoffs. So that's kind of hard to look at, and to see that 4 of the people that had projections on here missed a significant amount of time. 2 of them more than half the season. It's easy to see why we might have struggled some because obviously Rashawn Gary was a huge piece of our defense. So
right. I mean, Rodgers got injured in the Giants game in London.
5th week.
I mean, that obviously had an effect on the rest of his season. Not that we're using it as an excuse for our projections to be off, but it certainly affects that.
Right.
But like I said, I think we did pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. We were pretty close on a lot of these. So good job, everybody, for those projections. I think we did pretty good. And I think we should do more of those next season.
Yeah, they're fun.
All right. So I mentioned it when we started the show. Our next season, or our next Friday night show, is going to be on February 10th. We're going to do 4 ways to pick the Packers, to fix the Packers. Sorry, not to pick the Packers. I'm already thinking about drafts because that's the next thing that we're getting into after we do the 4 ways to fix the Packers episode. Is going to be heavy on the draft prep. So if you're interested in sticking around with us on draft prep, it's one of the most labor-intensive segments that we do on the Wisco Fanatics show is draft prep, and we usually try to work in a live draft show at some point as well, and just do a bunch of mock drafts. And now that we have extra people with us, we have extra input, so we're probably going to spread these out a little bit more. And now that we're doing our Friday night shows separate from our Wednesday shows, we'll be able to dedicate a little bit more time to those as well and not be doing them at the end of Wednesday night shows and dragging into 2.5, 3-hour episodes. We'll be able to do them separately. And like I said, be able to devote a little bit more time to them. So that said, each of us have 2 positions of need that we're going to cover. I think we each have one on offense, one on defense. And, some of it is contextual based on guys that are free agents, but we have reasons being for all of them. So, Simon, I'm going to let you go first. Give me your 2 positions of need that you're covering for the Packers going into 2023.
You want me to go into it too?
Yeah,
go ahead.
All of it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think one of the more obvious ones is wide receiver. I mean, right now we just have 2 practice squad guys, Bo Melton, Jeff Cotton, and then we got Toure, Watson, and Dobbs going into next year because Alan Lazard's currently a free agent. And I think pending a right contract with him, it's not really looking like he'll be back. So that'll be kind of a huge loss for the Packers. And then Randall Cobb's also a free agent as well. And then we obviously we cut Amari Rodgers in the middle of the season last year.
Oh no.
I know you're super
he went
sad.
balled out
You're
for the Texans too.
Yeah, he went and had.
He was so
He
amazing.
proved that Aaron Rodgers was no longer a good
Oh,
quarterback.
yeah, 100%. It's all Aaron Rodgers' fault that Amari Rodgers didn't work out. Definitely. So we're a little thin there. I think, and not getting way too much into our offseason stuff, but I could see us signing another free agent wide receiver like Sammy Watkins. Not Sammy Watkins, but a guy like that, where he's been in the league for a while. He's probably had a year or 2 where he was good, and he's just like a veteran addition to the team. Maybe we'll see Randall Cobb back if Rodgers comes back. Lots left to go on that saga. But I wouldn't be surprised to see us use another high pick on a wide receiver, get another young guy in the room.
Stop it, Tim.
What do you say?
You're my guy, but stop it. We're not bringing in Julio Jones, and I'm just as annoyed because I saw this today because Bill Huber wrote an article about it that the Packers are currently the betting favorites to trade for DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. See, I don't.
Oh God, it's so annoying.
Like, people got to understand our cap situation isn't the greatest either. So a lot of these guys that were losing in free agency and stuff are not coming back, or they'll be back on like a super cheap deal because we still got Rashawn Gary extension.
That's
really definitely coming. What's up?
That ties in well to your other position of need as well.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So speaking of, also, we're probably going to be in the market for another D-line. I think towards the end of the year, the D-line kind of came out strong. Kenny Clark played amazing down the stretch. But Jerron Reed was kind of up and down all season. Dean Lowry is exactly what we kind of all expected out of him. He's kind of a halfway decent player, but you don't want to start him if you don't have to.
Like the living embodiment of the word serviceable.
Yes, I love that. So Reed and Lowry are both free agents. I don't expect either of them to come back, in my opinion.
The only one who come back would be Reed, in my opinion.
I don't think Reed's coming back.
I don't think he's coming back.
With a pay raise,
yeah, he's gonna want money, and it's money that we don't have. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him gone. So that kind of just leaves us with Clark, which is good. Wyatt, who came out strong on the end of the season when he finally earned his playing time, which is good. And then we got Slayton, and Ford. So I think we're going to add another young guy in the draft to go along with that. TJ Slayton played some good games too.
I'm looking forward to him next year backing up Kenny Clark.
That'll be he's going on his 3rd year, so I think it'd be interesting. Ford
might be a breakout candidate for next
Ford
season.
Was an interesting prospect in the offseason too. I liked some of his preseason tape. But it could be another year where they feel like adding to the D-line depth. Maybe bringing in a cheap free agent too.
Bill said I don't think Lazard or Cobb will be back. Lazard's definitely going to be in the market for a pay raise. Cobb I think is completely conditional.
Yeah.
I think too I'm going to say this now. We're not going to talk about Aaron Rodgers very much because it's all speculation and conjecture at this point. But if there's an indicator of what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, if something happens with Randall Cobb before Aaron Rodgers is back, whether Cobb decides to retire or if Randall Cobb gets re-signed by the Packers, I think that's going to be a pretty strong indicator that Rodgers is playing for the Packers in 2023. Like, I really don't think that there's a scenario where the Packers are like, we need to have Randall Cobb available for Jordan Love. Just my opinion on that.
I think that would be Cobb's. I think he deserves that because he didn't want to catch passes from Love when he first came back.
Yeah, that's not bad.
He kind of deserves that.
Cody said Cobb last for T.Y. Hilton. That's going to be a hefty no thank you for me as well. I'm going to put T.Y. Hilton, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, all in the thanks but no thanks category. I definitely think there's other potential options, especially in the draft or in free agency that the Packers can look at if they're just looking at somebody to fill a place, because we know going in the next season, 1 and 2 is going to be Watson and Dobbs. So, and I think we'll get into a little bit more name-specific players when it comes into our 4 ways to fix the Packers thing. Then I think we'll get a little bit more specific on who exactly we want to see wearing green and gold next season. So,
Brian, I don't want to get too far into that, like you said, but one guy I'm looking forward to coming back is BJ Raji. I'm still holding out hope.
Oh, yeah. I heard Matthew technically retired as a Packer, right? He's technically under contract with us for one day. So Bryant, give me your 2 positions of need for the Packers.
So my first one, it's kind of interesting. I feel like we have depth there, but we could definitely add a piece. That would be inside linebacker / middle linebacker, pretty much interchangeable depending on what defense you're looking at. Now, if we were to switch to a 4-3, which, by the way, I would love if we did, because I feel like we're pretty close to having the secondary that we would need for that. Excuse me, we would definitely need to add a middle linebacker. But for right now, I think the depth going into next year pretty much is going to be Quay Walker, Devondre Campbell, because he can't really do much with this contract. If he's healthy, I think he's a really good player on our team still. And then the other one was Isaiah McDuffie. I thought Isaiah McDuffie played really well. I think Chris Barnes is probably gone. So I would like to see us add somebody there. There's some interesting options in free agency that over the cap has like at an attainable price, like Devin Bush, who's only going to be like 25 years old, they think is worth like $4 million a year. So that'd be someone we could take a flyer on or something like that. There's a couple linebackers that they're going to have a little more expensive, but we'll go into that more. And then there's some decent ones in the draft as well. So I think adding one more there, especially if we want to continue to move Quay Walker around, will be vital. So if we're going to put Quay Walker, we're going to use Quay Walker as someone to help with the pass rush until Rashawn Gary's fully back, we probably definitely want to add someone else. I would like for us to keep Eric Wilson too, but he's going to be a special teams star essentially. I don't know if y'all see him, but he's actually the highest rated special teams player per Pro Football Focus on the year. So if we can bring him back, he's going to be a core special teams piece, and we can probably get some snaps out of him if we need it. The other position is tight end. This one we absolutely have to address, and that's because I believe, looking at the roster, the only person we have under contract next year is Josiah DeGuara. So there's some definitely very interesting free agents coming up. You got Mike Gesicki out there, who I know had a down year, but that dude's he runs a 4.52 at 6'4". So he can fly, he can catch the ball. He had a couple 700-yard seasons before this last one. You're looking at the person I really like is Dalton Schultz, who's be a decent tight end ad, and then there's some other ones. Obviously, Robert Tonyan is going to be free agent, and then there's I've seen mock drafts projecting a couple tight ends in the first round. I think only one is worth it. Mayer out of Notre Dame, but I don't want to get much into that. We'll say
Mel Kiper just
down the road
into the Packers.
Oh, did he? I didn't see that.
Yep.
I've seen him mocked like 3 or 4 times now.
I'm sorry. I'm the type of person, I don't want to take a tight end in the first round. You know what I mean?
I don't either. I don't think the worth is there. Like the value is just not there, especially in the middle.
We need to address it, but I think Aaron Rodgers has gotten so used to not playing with a tight end that's dominant. Granted, I know Tonyan had all those touchdowns a couple years ago, but he never had that many yards. It was just a huge red zone threat. But if we were to add someone like Mark Andrews, I'm not saying that we would add Mark Andrews, but would Aaron be constantly looking for him, and would he put up 800, 900 yards? I don't know that would happen, but we'll see. It also, like, obviously it's all going to change on that decision that Aaron makes, but I think if we could add a receiving threat, an actual receiving threat at tight end, we need one. I love Tunyon, but
Bill said Tunyon on a prove it deal. Maybe that's essentially what he was on this year.
He was on this year,
and like I really didn't see much proving it.
If he comes back up for the vet minimum, sure.
Yeah, and another $4 million deal, like maybe.
I don't know, you want to pay
on the subject of veteran minimums, like I'd be willing to bring back Mercedes Lewis just because of the impact that he has on the team outside of the box score.
If you ask me if I want Mercedes Lewis or Robert Tunyon, I'll tell you Mercedes Lewis all day long.
Yeah, same.
It's not necessarily even like the head-to-head of it. Like obviously Mercedes Lewis isn't going to outpace Robert Tunyon in receptions.
That's what he does for the team.
But you look at the impact that those two players have, and then you look at the opportunity that having Mercedes Lewis and then being able to fill that room with somebody else versus having Robert Tunyon and then needing to fill a guy who's going to control your locker room, who's going to help teach young guys, and is going to have the impact on the field of blocking. So I'm with you on that. Jake, what are two positions of need that you're looking at?
So before I start, I saw this the other day. I've been checking it, sure true, but I'm sure it comes from a pretty reliable source. But Packers are last right now in money towards wide receivers and tight ends. They only have $11 million to wide receivers and tight ends going into next season. They said that Lazard's market value is $11 million by himself. So that's fucking gross.
I don't want him at all.
So outside of that, no, hell no. See ya. Bye.
If we're talking Lazard,
like you when you're
I would
here,
prefer, like, I'd go as high as 8 to 10. I wouldn't go any higher than 10.
I agree with that. I didn't want MVS last year for $10 million. Peace.
I agree.
So my first position is running back. I believe that we need to look at running back seriously. AJ Dillon's going into the last year of his rookie deal. He's going to need to get re-signed. Aaron Jones is due for $20 million. No, he's not getting cut. His dead cap is $9.5 million. They're not going to pay $9.5 million to have Aaron Jones being a superstar for another NFL team. That's just not going to happen. That's
He's
stupid.
a restructure candidate.
He's definitely a restructure candidate. I thought this was crazy. I was like breaking down his contract. $7.4 million for his roster bonus. That's fucking crazy.
Worse, in my opinion.
I agree. He's a great guy too. And then we have Taylor and we have Goodson as well. Those guys are cheap young options that are kind of exciting. But you don't really want to have to rely on those kind of guys. Not that Patrick Taylor was bad when he was up here. Yeah, I thought he was pretty decent actually. But what was the expectation bar at? So that's probably why I thought he was pretty decent, because I had zero expectations for him, right? So then the next one is really the bigger one for me. I do think that we have to take a little peek at running back. Not that it has to be a serious thing, not like a tight end. I'm actually 100% on board with a tight end, also on board with a safety. I think that's a big one. But edge. And I have a little bit of stats, nothing crazy. But we had 34 sacks as a team, right? Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith were 14.5 of those 34 sacks. Rashawn Gary got hurt in week 9. They were 42% of the sacks. So here's the next one.
Hold on. I'm gonna pull up the snaps.
So we had 171 pressures as a team. Rashawn Gary led the way by a large margin with 47. Jesus. The next highest person, it was a tie between Preston Smith and Kenny Clark. I didn't put Kenny Clark in here because I don't have D-line. But Gary and Smith together are 75. 75 of the 171. That is 43% of the pressures. Rashawn Gary is worth $40 million to the Green Bay Packers right now. I'm not even fucking kidding. His market value is around 22, I believe. I saw 22, 21, something in the low 20s. To Green Bay, he's worth $40 million. Because we don't have another person that gets pressure. We don't have another person that sacks quarterback at that high of a rate. And, shout out to Preston Smith, guy's balling, but he's going into his mid to late 30s now. Do I need to say anything else? It's Rashawn Gary and a bunch of guys is really what our outside linebacker edge position is. And Enigbare was a nice young piece, but Enigbare is really just going to be, a rotational player for his career, in my opinion. That's what I see him as right now. There's nothing wrong with that. You need those depth guys. But we need another guy because pass rush is what wins playoff football games. Look at the San Francisco 49ers defense. Now, yes, I understand they have Fred Warner. They have Hafunga or whatever the hell his name is. They have 0 corners. That fucking front seven. I'm sorry, I got to swear now. The front seven is insane, dude. They literally just get to the quarterback in 2.5 seconds. It's insane. And Nick Bosa might be the best player. He might have taken the title as the best player in the NFL. For me, when I was watching that Cowboys 49ers game, I was like, all right, whoever has the bigger game between Bosa and Parsons is who I'm going to declare the best player. And personally, I thought Nick Bosa was a little bit better. And nothing wrong with Aaron Donald, but Nick Bosa is a freaking beast. Sucks that he plays with 49ers. But all I'm going to say is edge, to me, is right up there with safety.
So listen, you brought up, oh my God, the pressures and the sacks numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers had a total of 1,033 defensive snaps.
Okay.
Rashawn Gary played 378, and Preston Smith played 825.
Holy shit.
So Preston Smith played he played 79% of snaps. And Rashawn Gary played under 37% of snaps.
Try to tell me he's not worth like $30 million to the Packers right now. Try to tell me that. He is everything on the edge.
I'll say for Kingsley Enagbare, I know you said he'd probably be just a dude. I think he has a chance to be I think he has a chance to be a Preston Smith type player for sack production for sure. Like he had like 400. Yeah.
Preston Smith's just a dude. He's not like a star.
He's a really good dude.
Like, he's just a dude.
8-9 sacks is a pretty dang good number.
There's a lot of dudes in the NFL.
I'll take that.
I'll take
secondary
that
guy.
I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not at all like discrediting him.
No.
But,
I feel you.
But Rashawn Gary's ceiling, and I talked about it before the season, I think this guy could go out there and have a 17 sack season. That's just the kind of guy I think he is.
Rashawn Gary's ceiling is Defensive Player of the Year.
It is. He could be in the conversation with a Nick Bosa for pressure rate and sacks. Like I think he could be in that conversation.
Ceiling is Pro Bowl, I would say.
Yeah.
Not all
and I'll say, hey, if Enagbare is a Pro Bowl, or even
that's what I'm saying.
That's a great player.
If he develops into that second pass rusher who could potentially make the Pro Bowl, I'll take that.
At the same time, I know we're asking people to develop, but if he develops and then we have Kenny Clark inside and Devontae White had a sack and a half on the year and he hardly played any snaps, like if you start to see that numbers, like we could be pretty dangerous if Rashawn Gary gets back. Kingsley Enagbare has some pass rush moves. If he adds some functional strength this offseason, Kenny becomes more of a pro. I think, Gary, his rookie season had 2 sacks. Obviously, Enagbare played a lot more snaps this year because out of necessity. And he had 3 sacks this year. I think Enagbare could push 6-7 sacks next year for sure.
Preston Smith, you brought up his age. He turned 30 in November, so he's just 30.
Oh, he just turned 30. I thought he was 31 already. My fault.
Yeah. He's just 30.
So here's something I'll also say. Of the players that had at least 200 pass rushing snaps, he was second on the team in pass rush win rate. Enagbare.
Oh wow!
And obviously, it's the difference between Gary and Enagbare was a little bit like Gary's percentage was 20, Enagbare's was 15. So I mean, the difference is there. 1 second, let me. 13.1. So I mean, he's a developmental prospect. I don't think anyone had us taking him in the 5th round and thought he was going to be a monster. I liked him, but I think the potential is there to be more than what Jake's saying he could be. That's just my opinion.
Listen, man, there's 32 teams. There's a lot of really
got
good players.
I
think he's just a dude.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that. I could be
No,
calling him a bum. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he's a bum.
Can I give you some numbers?
I like numbers.
This might affect your opinion a little bit, if I'm being honest. Preston Smith finished 10th in the NFL in sacks.
Okay.
Listen to some of the guys he had more sacks than. More sacks than Bradley Chubb. More sacks than Von Miller. More sacks than Khalil Mack. Demario Davis. Josh Allen. Obviously Rashawn Gary. More sacks than Bobby Wagner. More sacks than TJ Watt, who got hurt. More sacks than Melvin Ingram. I mean, Chandler Jones. Roquan Smith. Bud Dupree, who was hurt about half the season. But Levante David. I mean, those are all guys that Preston Smith had more sacks than. Zadarius Smith had 9, and Leonard Floyd had 9. So those guys are only half a sack.
Wait, talk about a fall off that he had.
Yeah,
I remember halfway through the season, Minnesota was like, "Oh, thanks for Z." Then he disappeared.
I seen something like over the last 8 games, he didn't have a sack, or he had like 1 or 2 sacks over the last 8 games.
He had a half a sack.
Half a sack. Yeah, there.
Yep.
There you go.
So I mean, essentially, like top 10 in sacks for Preston Smith.
If that's Angbari's ceiling, I'm all for that. Like, that's great. I agree with you, Jake. I don't think he'll ever be like a perennial Pro Bowler. You never know, but I think if we could get someone that's going to put up 8 to 10, 7 to 10 sacks next to Rashawn Gary, we're cooking with gas a little bit there.
Oh, 100%.
So,
I would absolutely be about this, but
it's Cody mentioned it in the comments. You guys kind of tiptoed around it a little bit already. One of the positions of need, and this is my opinion, the biggest one for the Packers is safety. Prior to last season, the Packers picked up Darnell Savage's 5th-year option, so Darnell Savage is on the roster for 2023. Other than that, everybody else is free agents. Adrian Amos is a free agent. Rudy Ford is a free agent, who, in my opinion, Rudy Ford should be a priority to bring back because of his impact, not only at safety, but on special teams as well. And I think if they can bring Adrian Amos back inexpensively, I think that would be an option to explore. Just because we did see Darnell Savage play a little bit better football, playing as essentially a nickel corner. Whether they try to do more of that, whether they address it in the draft or in free agency when it comes to safety, it is a big position of need. And then when we're talking about positions of need, it's not necessarily one where it's like the Packers need a guy there, but on the offensive line, that's pretty much always something that is drafted and replenished every season with the Packers. You can say cut David Bakhtiari you want. He's not getting cut. David Bakhtiari is going to be on the roster next season. He'll be another restructure candidate, but David Bakhtiari is going to be on the roster next season. Elton Jenkins is extended. Josh Myers is going into his 3rd season. He's arguably the one that's got the most to prove on the offensive line. John Runyon, I would say, is pretty much locked in at right guard. And then you're looking at right tackle, and you're looking between Josh Nyman and Zach Tom. If they allow Zach Tom to start and let Josh Nyman walk, that'll be more just essentially needing to draft for depth, which is something that Brian Gutekunst has shown himself to be very good at doing. So putting offensive line into our positions of need and something that we're going to rank for drafts, that's definitely going to be basically something that's going to be done every single year when we do our draft rankings. Offensive line will always be in that. So
is Nyman a restricted free agent?
Yes.
Yep.
What do we owe? Was it $6 million?
4 for, I think it's $4 million for a 2nd round tender. So I think there's about 100% possibility of getting a 2nd round tender.
I'd be really surprised if they did not picked up the 2nd round, like a needy team for a tackle.
I think there's a better chance we tag him and trade him.
I said this. I think I said it on our last show when we talked about it. I think if anybody's willing to give up that 2nd round pick for him, I think it's maybe the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Maybe the Bears. Oh wait, that's right. They don't have that anymore. Sorry, I had to take a shout out to Bear fans.
Bill said we're going to have some restructuring ahead of us. We have 6 guys that will eat up about 55% of our cap. Yeah, Bill, that's thankfully we have Russ Ball. He is the salary cap wizard. He's a guy who potentially I think would be in consideration for team president when Mark Murphy retires in 2025, just because he's that damn good at his job.
Mhm.
But Russ Ball, he'll get it figured out. I mean, Bakhtiari is going to get restructured. Aaron Rodgers is going to get restructured one way or another. Aaron Jones is going to get restructured. I would throw maybe Jair into that. But I mean, looking at last season and this season, I mean, just with Jair's number, I think maybe some of it getting converted to.
Maybe that way.
He's not gonna take any less money, but just converting some of it to signing bonus.
You guys ever watch like I think it's Bazarowski on YouTube? Yeah. He did a pretty good video breakdown of how Green Bay can essentially free up like 20-something million, $30 million in cap space really easily. And then we heard Aaron Rodgers say yesterday on Pat McAfee show that like he wouldn't come back at the 60 million or 40 million number. And then I seen a breakdown where it's like you could get his cap hit down quite a bit, adding more void years and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they can get him down to 31 million is what I saw.
Yeah. So like there's things they can do.
If we're looking at last year to this year, last year at this time, the Packers were 55 million over the cap. This year, they're 6.5 million under.
Yep.
So they're in a much better position than they were last year already. And obviously last year they got it figured out. So this year, like you said, Bill, Russ Ball will be a busy man, but he's in a little bit better position this year than he was last year. So
he knows what he's doing. I trust Russ Ball.
I do too. Russ Ball is a wizard. He's a wizard. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to say? Packers related. Cody said Amos took 2 restructures back to back. I don't see him coming back cheap.
I don't think he'll come back, to be honest. I think his time in Green Bay is over.
I could see him. He's from the Baltimore area. I've actually ran into his family like 2 or 3 times out here, which is kind of weird. But I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to come like play in Maryland. So you could see him on
just
something
drafted
like
a guy and they signed a free agent safety last year.
I said Maryland. Who else is right here?
Who the fuck wants to play for the Commanders, bro? Come on. I don't even want to play for the Commanders.
So I'm just saying, I wouldn't be shocked if he comes up this way. But I've also seen where since he's already got void years on his contract, if we do re-sign him, there's a way we could save cap space by re-signing him. So I think Tyler froze in a happy face.
That's a good way to freeze, though, man. At least he wasn't pissed off or sneezing or some shit.
Sure to be a ton of fun. So definitely tune back in for that one on February 10th when we do our 4 ways to fix the Packers. Other than that, Simon and Bryant, thanks for hopping on with us on a Wednesday. I know it's a little bit out of the norm, but thanks everybody for watching and sticking with us for the whole show and commenting along. And Jake and I will be back next Wednesday. So you guys take care and see you guys soon.
Yes, sir. Take care, boys.
Take care.